Clay, we saw something last night we've never seen before when Damar Hamlin goes down with the cardiac arrest, CPR. I mean, it was just a terrible scene. And a lot of people were critical in the moment how the NFL handled it. I know the NFL had never been in a situation like this. In retrospect, how do you think they handled it?
I don't think – look, the Internet's a blame factory. And when bad things happen, everybody on the Internet just wants to find somebody to blame for bad things. And the reality is sometimes bad things happen, and no one is intentionally trying to make the bad thing worse. And so I think the NFL responded as the way that they would for most incidents that happen on the field, which is I'm sure they were hoping, as has been the case almost always, that by the time there's medical treatment provided on the field, that the report is, hey, he's going to be fine. We're taking him to the hospital for further observation. And I imagine that is what the NFL execs were waiting for and expected would happen, right? Because, as you just mentioned, this is a situation that's truly without precedent. And even the idea of bringing an ambulance on and taking a player off to a hospital, if you're a sports fan of the NFL or college football, you have seen that. And what usually happens in those games is the game continues, and at some point, certainly when you're watching on television, the announcers come back and they say, hey, we've got an update from the hospital, and most frequently the hospital, the guys go for what? Because they have had, a threat of paralysis or something. You'll hopefully get a report, hey, they've got feeling, they got movement in their legs and their arms, and they're just going back to test. And so I think that's probably what the NFL was anticipating. Hey, this guy's going to be okay. We'll get word that he's going to be okay. We can let everybody on the field know that. We let our viewers know that, and we can continue with the game. And then as the treatment progressed and the severity of the incident became more apparent, I think they were, still hoping out that they were going to get a good report. But, so far we really haven't gotten much of a report. And so I think the NFL eventually decided, you know what, we can't play this game. And I understand everybody wants somebody to blame. Somebody sent this tweet and it made me sad. They're awful human beings. And that's kind of the way the Internet works. I think the better outcome here is, the $3.5 million in charity donations that have poured into Damar Hamlin's charity for kids to get underprivileged kids to get Christmas presents. To me, that's a much better version of humanity than what often predominates on social media, which is, a mob decides that somebody said or did something that wasn't appropriate, and we've got to drag them. I like the 3.5 million story, which I think is more symptomatic of how most people respond. And I really don't think that the NFL was, an awful scenario here. Look, they're a business. And at some point, and I'm sure they're sitting around debating this now, they hope that Damar Hamlin is going to be okay. But they have to figure out, hey, what do we do with the rest of the NFL season? The games don't stop. And they certainly had to deal with this a lot with COVID, where they were constantly redesigning and reassessing the games. And so they've had a lot of pratfalls in their game. And so I'm curious to see what they end up doing going forward. But I didn't think that they were somehow heartless wretches for the way that they responded.